What's up, guys? How we doing? Just wanted to actually put together a video. I have a rather large live oak tree in my front yard, and after getting it pruned last year, it kind of left the canopy on the inside, where all the way up high, open to where I could finally hang some Christmas ornaments that I've always wanted to do. The problem is that even the big ornaments that you can buy, like at Home Depot or wherever, are only about that big at the most. And my tree is so big you really wouldn't see them. So I decided to make my own. So last year I made my own, and just got a lot of people that would stop actually and talk and ask me questions about where I got them from, and it was always kind of a long conversation. So I figured I might put together a video that outlines how to do it. That way, in case anybody out there wants to make their own, this is how I went about doing it. Okay, so I've tried to do some of the prep work already as far as some of the things that you don't really need to show in the video. So I'll go over all the materials that I used, and I'll try to put it together as quick as I can. Hopefully edit some of the more boring parts down a little bit so that it's not ridiculously long. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so first of all, I use a bouncy ball. This is from Walmart. Now Walmart is where I ended up buying all of the supplies, between Walmart and Home Depot really, but I know that Walmart has all of them. Okay, so the first thing you want to get is a bouncy ball. I think these are about 18 inches in diameter. They come in a variety of colors and very bouncy, as you can tell. They make a great ornament, and I'll show you why in a little bit. One of the great features about these is they do have the inflator valve, so you can deflate it at the end of the season when you take them down to store them, and then reinflate them to make them a little bit bigger. Get yourself a big bouncy ball, 18 inches in diameter, from Walmart. Okay. The next thing you're going to need is a galvanized metal pail. Now these are also at Walmart, and what I did was bought a can of metallic finish, kind of chrome looking spray paint. That way you can paint it and make it look shiny and everything like the top of an ornament. Now one of the things I've done was, again going back to some of the prep work that you don't need to watch doing, is I went ahead and cut out a couple of holes at the top here and spray painted the inside and the outside so that it's just nice and done, and we can just go forward from there. So this pail is about maybe 6 inches tall, 6 inches in diameter at the top part, just a metal pail. Probably lots of other things you could use, but this is what I went with. Okay. The next thing you're going to need is a floodlight. This one I got at Walmart. You can see just an LED floodlight. It actually comes with a red lens and a green lens you can put in there, or without the lens it's just a white color. So depending on what color ball you're using, you can either have it white, green, or red if you need to. Okay, and that's what you're going to need, is just a floodlight. And of course, you could build ornaments and not have to put a light in them at all, which would really simplify what we're doing here if you wanted to put it like in your classroom or inside somewhere where you didn't need a light. Some heat shrink tubing. Heat shrink tubing is really good for when you put the stuff together. It just keeps all the water and moisture out, makes it a really nice secure thing. A variety of sizes you might need. You're going to need some grommets. Grommets are little rubber things that go on one of these holes. The rope's going to end up going in the smaller hole, and if I didn't put a grommet there, this galvanized metal will end up cutting the rope. So you put that in there and it keeps the rope protected. Okay, so just get some grommets, various sizes. This is the size that I end up using in my application. You'll see that in just a few minutes. I'm going to need some butt connectors, butt splice connectors, to splice some wires together. Just depending on the gauge of the wires that you need. You're going to need some, I use some silicone grease from the plumbing aisle, actually at Home Depot. I don't know if Walmart carries this, they might. You need some rope. You buy yourself a 100-foot spool of it, and what I do is I end up cutting this to about 10 feet long. 10 feet long, and this is probably 3/8 inch polyester rope that I cut down to about 10 feet. Okay. Actually, I think I cut this into 11 because I ended up making a knot on both ends. That way I've got 10 feet of working usable space. So 10 feet of rope. The cord that comes with the floodlight is only 4 feet long. And since I want this to hang down from the tree about 10 feet, I've got to take some other extension cord and actually splice it in another 6 feet. So I've got 10 feet total of extension cord for my floodlight. This is where I use the butt connectors and the heat shrink tubing just to make that really nice. I didn't bother doing any kind of a real secure, weight bearing, kind of configuration on this splice. The weight of the ornament being held up from the tree is carried on the rope. So this doesn't need to be, anything secure, so it's not that kind of an application, no big deal. But, so you're gonna need some wiring. Now, one of the things with this wire is it only has 2 wires on the inside, okay? There's no ground wire. So when you're getting an extension cord to splice in some wire for this, find yourself an extension cord that has also no ground wire. And so when you find that one, that's going to be a perfect extension cord for this application right here, so that you can get your 10 feet going all the way down, and that's what happens. That's what it looks like right here. So I've got the splice in there, ready to go. On this end, you can see I've got the connector that's going to go into the floodlight itself, and I've got the wires that are all ready to go and to be twisted in for the application. Okay. You're also going to need some fishing line. This was the heaviest fishing line that they had at Walmart, 150-pound max test line. What else? Masking tape might come up if you need it. Just a couple of tools, some electrical pliers, a couple of screwdrivers, that kind of thing. You're also going to need a ring. Now, in the other ornaments that I built, I ended up buying just a regular, ring, and you could use a key ring if you wanted to. You want something that's probably maybe 1.5 inches in diameter, 2 inches in diameter. When I went to the store earlier to get some stuff to build this extra ornament, I built 4 last year, and this is another one I am building, and I figured I'd make a video on it. So this is my 5th ornament hanging from the tree. And so when I was getting the last couple of supplies that I needed, I actually forgot to get a ring. So this is just something I had laying around. I'm going to use it, but it really doesn't matter. You just need something that's heavy enough to attach underneath the pail that's going to hold its weight. Okay, so this is definitely overkill. You just need some sort of a 2-inch diameter ring. Key ring would work fine, but I mean, shoot, if you just did a couple loops of a coat hanger, that'd work fine. But this is going to go at the top of the ornament. You need another just aluminum carabiner with a clip. This is going to go at the top of the rope to secure it up into the tree so it doesn't fall down. Okay, and what else? Going to need a couple of zip ties, and I guess that's about it. So let me jump in and get started with putting this together. So the first thing you end up doing, this particular style of floodlight, because it's got those lenses, it has the bezel on the outside here that removes, and you can put those lenses on top and then secure this back down. The reason I like this design is because when you remove this, you can take this off. It's got 3 screws that hold it on, and when you take that out, okay, it's pretty simple. It's just got a couple of wires, black and white, and here's the light is just held on that little circuit board right there, and it's got a gasket right here for being weather tight. It's got the clear plastic lens, and then the LEDs themselves. Okay, now the floodlight that you might have available where you live might be a little bit different than this, but going to be basically the same idea. Once you remove those 3 screws, this thing comes out, and you can undo the wiring so that you can splice in the extra footage to make it go taller. So then you have the rest of your housing. What you're going to want to do is, when you take this apart, now that you have this apart, take yourself a Sharpie marker, and you're going to want to put it on the base of your pail or whatever you're going to use for the top. And if you draw around with your Sharpie marker, okay, that'll give you a template for how big of a hole to make right here to cut out. Okay, and so when I drew this, obviously you've got a circle that is the width of a Sharpie marker, and when I made my cut, I cut it on the inside of that circle so it wasn't too big. I can always go in and take a little bit more out if I need to, but by doing that, and I do it, you can see offset. If I did it in the center, I wouldn't have room to put this hole here for the rope. So doing it off center like this, you can see that that goes in pretty tight, actually kind of it's tight enough to basically screw on there. And what's going to end up happening is from the inside, I'm going to take the bezel, once it's all assembled, I'm going to screw it down in here, and it basically holds itself to it. Again, nothing is actually held up by this light. It's all carried by the rope. So this is just, you just want this to be connected in such a way that it doesn't come apart, really, and that's going to be completely sufficient, okay? So that's what you use to draw the circle, and the other one you just draw depending on whatever diameter of the rope that you've got and the size of the grommet that you need, okay? So in terms of getting all this put back together, one of the things that we're going to want to do is that, you remember right here how it's got this weatherproof gasket, okay? Well, the gasket's fantastic because, of course, we've got to put this back in there. This thing is actually sealed when it's used in a normal floodlight configuration where the light is pointing up. However, the problem is that these floodlights are going to be actually pointing straight down into the ornaments like this. And therefore, if it rains, you're going to have water that comes down all the way down your power cord. Water that comes all the way down your power cord. And last year when I first built these, we had a really good rain that came along. We're in North Texas here, and the floodlights actually filled up with water because it is not actually watertight upside down. So what I discovered that worked really well was using this silicone grease to fill up this fitting right here, and that keeps all the water, any water from coming into the housing. So we're going to go ahead and put that together real quick, and we got to insert this, and we're going to go ahead and do the wiring and start getting this thing going. Okay. Okay, so it's got two pieces, inside and outside. That's got to come off so that this can go in there. Okay, like that. And then now do is I need to see how much I need to have in there. So you really don't need very much, just looks like about that much should do the trick. So in other words, this outside insulated jacket just needs to stick out there maybe half an inch past that fitting right there, and that's enough length right here to attach the wire nuts. Maybe I'll give it just a touch more, about that much, okay? And so let's see here. Knowing that I've got about that much, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in a little silicone kind of around this edge and then slip it back down, okay? Just that way I get a little on the inside and a little on the outside as well. So I'm going to basically lay that down, kind of like a bead of caulk on the inside of that. Now I'm going to push it up. Smooth it out a little bit. Okay, having a little bit extra right here is not going to affect anything except for the water resistance. I just want it to go up inside there as I push it down. Now, I think for good measure, I'm going to go ahead and squeeze some. And I don't remember how I did this last year, so I'm just sort of going to probably do a little bit of overkill. Now I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around, get some on the threads. That in all of these little grooves. There we go. That's pretty good. Okay. Okay. Black to black, white to white. Okay, now I've got the connections made. I still have silicone all over this from the inside, which is good. So we'll just go ahead and feed that back through. Okay. What I am going to do is go ahead and put more silicone right there. Okay. That fills back up. And just another quick turn and scoop it all out, which is good. Okay. That's it. That's what I need. Now we're wired. And right. Make sure the little rubber gasket is seated properly. And it is. Bend those in just a little bit. And we're good. Okay? Go ahead and put the screws back in there. Probably not a bad idea to plug it in to make sure it works before I go too far. We're good. Okay. So our light is there and it's good to go. So what's going to happen here is that goes to this right here. Get it seated nice and flush, and now take the inside, the bezel, and there we go. Okay, get it nice and flush. No sense you don't really have to over tighten it at all. It does just fine. Now on this side, what I like to do is this little fitting right here is for the little stake that you can use that we don't use obviously. But what I do, since it's got a hole right here, I like to have this part right across from where the rope's going to go in, because I'm going to end up zip tying the two together with the rope. It helps keep it kind of pointed down. You'll see that when we go to put it all together. Okay, so for now, let's go and take the grommet that we drilled a hole for, and I'm going to slip that in. And boom. So now we've got our light, we've got the grommet, which is going to protect the rope, and it's sealed up so it won't leak water, and this part of it is good to go. Okay, let's set that aside. We're going to need some line. How much line? Hard to know. But I know that I wrap it around 4 times. Okay. So I'm going to take it here. There's 1, 2, 3, four times, and I'm going to go ahead and go 5, 6. I'm going to go 6 because that's probably a little more than I need. I can always cut off some at the end, okay? But 6 is good for right now. So that's where that's going to be, this spot here. I'm holding. Set this aside for later, okay? So now what we're going to do is all of the bouncy balls, we got a barcode, we're going to want to make sure that's at the bottom, okay? So the barcode's at the bottom, this is our top, and in order to get started, we're going to use this, you know, whatever you're using for the top ring. Okay, and let's go ahead and tie a little knot to get it started. Okay, nice and tight. Now, if this is our top, let's go ahead and hold this right there. And let me show you what I end up doing. Okay, so I know I'm going to go 4 times around, so I'm going to go on my first pass. Back around, what I'm going to do is I am just going to go in once, twice, okay? To where now what I'm going to end up doing, because I've got four loops for this, is going to basically go, think of pizza slices. One this way, then I'm going to do the next one perpendicular. Okay, then I'm going to do the next one at a 45, then the other one perpendicular from it. So I've got, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, like pizza slices, or a piece of pie, whatever you like to think of. But you just want that kind of nice and tight right here. And now I'm going to go this way. And again, this should be my bottom. So I'm going to hold it tight. And again, do 2 loops. One loop, really, just around once and twice. Okay. So hopefully you can see those should be perpendicular to each other, and they're both wrapped around that one at the top. Okay? Now, also, at the bottom, should be the same thing, except for on the barcode. Okay? So, move that over if you need to keep things nice and tight. Okay, where it crosses there. Okay. Now I'm going to go to 45. I'm going to go right here down this one. Okay, in other words, split that one. Crossing again down here at the barcode. And coming back to the other side, splitting it. Okay. Keeping it nice and tight. Go around a couple of times. Once. Okay, twice. It's just one loop. Okay. And again, you want to keep the tension on this because otherwise you're not really tying a knot, you're just looping it around. And so the whole thing is, you know, you're not tying off every single loop. They're all together, and you'll see how I sort of tie it down at the end. But for now, let's make the last loop, which is perpendicular off the last one. Keep it nice and tight. And so now we're going to go here. Let's see here. Right there. Again, crossing at the barcode. Okay. Now that we're here, do the same thing I did before, except for then I'm going to give it some wraps around here before I tie it off. Okay. Again, don't forget to keep the tension on it. So there's once. Twice. Okay, same thing, just one loop. Okay. So now at this point, we got all, 8 of the lines intersecting there, and we can straighten them out here later. But what we're going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around. Like this, because what that's going to do, that's going to serve to sort of keep all the loops that I created from each pass, keep them all squashed together down at the bottom so this thing's not flipping and flopping, which is what we don't want. Probably doesn't matter. This one just being not a ring, being oblong, is goofier than most. If you have a regular ring, it really won't matter, but that just makes it, I think, a little bit better right there. Like that. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and do another couple loops to tie it off. Okay. And actually, I kind of forget exactly how I tied it off. sure a lot of people are going to be a lot better at knots than I will. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll loop it one more time.